In the heart of the South China Sea lies a tiny triangle of rocks, reefs, and sandbars, barely visible on the horizon, yet at the center of one of Asia's most heated disputes. This is Scarborough Shoal. On maps, it looks insignificant, but in reality, it is a flashpoint of politics, power, and national pride. Over the past decade, Scarborough Shoal has evolved into a microcosm of a bigger tussle, a symbolic battleground where two Asian giants clash over sovereignty, resources, and prestige. Today, we'll take you inside this microscopic maelstrom. We'll revisit the nail-biting standoff, explore the shifting tides of legal battles, and hear from those whose lives revolve around this disputed territory. So get ready to dive into a world where inches of land matter more than gold and where ages-old maritime traditions intertwine with modern geopolitical ambitions. So what really happened in Scarborough Shoal? Let's start at the beginning. This is a tale that begins not in the turbulent waters of the 21st century, but in the bygone era of old nautical maps and maritime charts. Welcome to our show. I'm your host. Tucked away about 120 nautical miles off the Philippine coast, Scarborough Shoal is a collection of submerged reefs and sandbars barely poking out of the turquoise waters of the South China Sea. To many, it might seem like an obscure and unassuming part of the ocean. But to those who have charted these waters for centuries, it's a familiar and vital landmark. For generations, Filipino fishermen have navigated these routes, casting their nets in the bountiful waters surrounding the shoal. Its location at the intersection of several shipping lanes and its rich marine ecosystem made it a natural hub for maritime activity. In fact, as early as the 5th-10th century, Spanish accounts of Philippine waters mention Bayo de Masinloc, the local name for the shoal, as a known fishing ground. Likewise, Chinese records refer to Huangyan Dao, highlighting how deeply ingrained this place is in the cultural memory of the region. However, it wasn't until the dawn of the 21st century that Scarborough Shoal catapulted onto the global stage, transforming from a humble fishing ground into a tinderbox of diplomatic tensions. Picture this: the year is 2012, the scene, the placid waters of Scarborough Shoal. Suddenly, a Philippine Navy ship spots a fleet of Chinese fishing vessels anchored suspiciously inside the shoal's lagoon. This discovery sets off a chain of events that will soon turn the tranquil waters into a battleground of political posturing. As the Philippine authorities close in to investigate reports of illegal fishing, they flag an imminent ecological disaster. Within the fragile coral reefs, they discover a graveyard of smashed corals and a haul of immature and endangered species, including giant clams and live sharks, all signs of destructive fishing practices. Before they can take action, though, the arrival of several Chinese maritime surveillance ships blocks their path. The standoff has officially begun. For the next month, the shoal becomes a silent witness to a tense game of cat and mouse. Filipino and Chinese vessels face each other, their flags snapping defiantly in the sea breeze. Each side accuses the other of trespassing in their waters. The world watches with bated breath, unsure if this seemingly remote territorial dispute will boil over into a larger conflict. On one side are the Filipinos, a resilient people known for their warm hospitality and deep connection to the sea. Their fishermen have relied on Scarborough Shoal for generations, and its protection is as vital to them as the air they breathe. On the other side stand the Chinese, a rising global power with expansive, historical claims in the South China Sea. Their presence is backed by a growing navy and a determination to assert their dominance in what they consider their traditional fishing grounds. The standoff ends, but the tension remains. Eventually, the Chinese ships depart, leaving the Filipinos to survey the damage. Yet the question lingers: who really owns this insignificant patch of ocean? Let's take a moment to meet the real-life heroes of this story, the Filipino fishermen. Life for them revolves around the rhythm of the sea. Since time immemorial, They've cast their nets in the waters around Scarborough Shoal, harvesting its bounty and sustaining their families and communities. But now their traditional way of life is under threat. These men and women are the backbone of their coastal towns, their days filled with the hopes of a good catch and their nights echoing with tales of the sea. Their connection to Scarborough Shoal runs deeper than just economics. It's a bond forged in tradition and necessity. Their stories are a testament to the human cost of this geopolitical tussle. And then there are the bureaucrats and diplomats, the movers and shakers of the political world. Their decisions, though made thousands of miles away from the shoal, have direct consequences on the lives of these fishermen. We see them in well-lit offices, poring over maps and charts, debating legal precedents and historical claims. Their arguments are steeped in international law and centuries-old maritime traditions. But in the end, it's the fishermen who bear the brunt of these high-stakes games. Caught between the competing claims of two powerful nations, their voices often go unheard amidst the cacophony of diplomatic protests and legal jargon. China's claim to Scarborough Shoal is rooted in a concept known as the 9-dash line. This nebulous maritime boundary encompasses a vast expanse of the South China Sea, much of which overlaps with the exclusive economic zones of other countries. China bases its claim on a combination of historical precedent, geographic proximity, and vague interpretations of international maritime law. The Philippines, on the other hand, counters with an argument rooted in international law. They point to the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, or UNCLOS, and its definition of exclusive economic zones. According to this convention, coastal states have special rights regarding the exploration and use of marine resources in a zone extending 200 nautical miles from their shores. The Philippines argue that Scarborough Shoal falls well within their exclusive economic zone, giving them sole rights to the resources there. This clash of perspectives forms the crux of the dispute, a battle between a long-standing but loosely defined historical claim and a more recent internationally recognized legal principle. Now let's fast forward to 2013. The Philippines, armed with legal counsel, decides to take an unprecedented step. They bring the dispute to an international court, specifically the Permanent Court of Arbitration in The Hague. This move sends ripples of tension throughout the region. The Filipinos are betting big on the rule of law, hoping that a binding international decision can settle the conflict once and for all. But the road ahead is fraught with challenges. Not only does China refuse to participate in the proceedings, they actively try to undermine the court's authority. Will the Philippines prevail in this legal marathon? And if so, how will China react to a decision against them? In 2016, the world got its answer. The Permanent Court of Arbitration ruled that China's sweeping 9-dash line claim had no legal basis and that the Philippines had sovereign rights over waters near Scarborough Shoal. It was a resounding legal victory for the Philippines. But as they celebrated their win, they knew that the real battle was just beginning. You see, the ruling lacked enforcement mechanisms. China, true to form, rejected the decision outright, and despite the ruling, continued to patrol Scarborough Shoal with its Coast Guard and maritime militia vessels. For Filipino fishermen, the ruling felt hollow. They continued to face restrictions and harassment whenever they dared venture close to the shoal. China had made it clear that they wouldn't abide by the court's decision. But the story doesn't end there. The coming years witness a delicate dance of diplomacy, intimidation, and limited access. At times, Filipino fishermen are allowed in. At others, they are blocked. Who will blink first? If you're enjoying this episode, please support us by subscribing. Your support means a lot to us and helps us keep delivering quality content. Thank you. Today, Scarborough Shoal continues to be a microcosm of a bigger tussle, a symbolic battleground where two Asian giants clash over sovereignty, resources, and prestige. The once tranquil waters are now a site of regular naval and Coast Guard encounters, a testament to the militarization of the South China Sea. Despite the tension, life goes on. Filipino fishermen continue to cast their nets, hoping for a good catch. Their courage is matched only by their resilience. They navigate the choppy waters not only of the South China Sea, but also of a geopolitical storm, all in the pursuit of a meal for their families and their survival. As we wrap up our journey into the heart of this microscopic maelstrom, we're left pondering a simple yet profound question. What really happened in Scarborough Shoal? Is it a tale of a forgotten fishing ground turned battleground? Or is it a microcosm of a larger geopolitical tussle? Perhaps it's both. The story of Scarborough Shoal is a reminder that geopolitics isn't just about boardroom strategy or military buildup. It's about the human stories that unfold at the intersection of power and people's lives. In the grand narrative of international relations, Scarborough Shoal might be just a footnote, but to the Filipino fishermen, it's their lifeline. Their story is a testament to the fact that in the intricate game of international politics, it's often the ordinary people who bear the extraordinary burden. As the sun dips below the horizon, casting long shadows across Scarborough Shoal, we're reminded that beneath the weight of empires, there's always the quiet dignity of those who call the sea their home.